When we think back to the earliest days of Pokemon, many of us picture a tiny Game Boy screen glowing late at night, filled with pixelated creatures and simple tunes that somehow felt larger than life. Kanto, the very first region, wasn't just a collection of towns, forests, and caves. It was the starting point for one of the biggest cultural phenomena the world has ever seen. The Pokemon we met there and the stories that grew around them became part of childhood memories for millions of people across the globe. But behind the bright battles and cheerful music lies a world full of hidden details, obscure trivia, and fascinating quirks. From strange glitches buried deep in the game's code, to forgotten design choices, to cultural references that made more sense in Japan than anywhere else, Kanto is filled with secrets waiting to be uncovered. Many of these details are small, easy to overlook in the rush of adventure, but together they help explain why the region feels so alive, even decades later. In this video, we'll be taking a slow, relaxing journey through 148 obscure facts about Kanto and the Pokemon within it. Think of it less like a fast paced list and more like a quiet walk through a familiar forest. We'll pause along the way to notice the little things, the odd details, and the strange myths that make the region so unforgettable. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's begin exploring the hidden history of Pokemon's very first world. Kanto is the very first Pokemon region, the birthplace of the entire franchise, and home to the legendary Indigo League. This vast and varied land introduced players to everything from quiet hometowns to bustling cities, eerie caves, and wide stretches of wilderness. At the northern edge lies the Indigo Plateau, where the Elite Four and Champion wait, serving as the ultimate challenge for trainers. For millions of players in the late 1990s, Kanto wasn't just a fictional map. It felt like a second home, a place to grow, battle, and discover. Its simplicity, combined with the mystery of hidden areas and powerful creatures, set the foundation for every Pokemon journey that would follow in later generations. One subtle but fascinating detail about Kanto is that nearly every city is named after a color. Pewter suggests stone gray. Cerulean reflects a bright sky blue. Vermilion captures the energy of red-orange. And saffron takes its name from a golden yellow spice. Lavender Town carries the purple of its eerie theme, while Pallet Town itself reflects a blank artist's canvas, symbolizing the beginning of the adventure. This clever naming scheme not only made the towns easy to remember, but also tied them directly to visual themes and atmosphere. It's a simple design choice that most players absorbed without consciously realizing, but it's one of the reasons Kanto's towns feel so distinct and memorable even decades after first stepping into them. When Pokemon first launched, Kanto was home to exactly 151 creatures. This roster included everything from simple bug types like Caterpie to powerful legends like Mewtwo. At the time, the idea of catching them all felt massive, especially for children playing on a small Game Boy screen. The number 151 struck a perfect balance, large enough to feel endless, but small enough to be manageable. Every playground had debates about which Pokemon were strongest, which were rare, and which were simply the coolest. Many fans still argue that the original 151 remain the most iconic roster, not just because they came first, but because they shaped how people thought about Pokemon forever. The very first gym leader most players ever faced was Brock of Pewter City. His specialty was rock-type Pokémon, led by his famous Onix, and his badge was the Boulder Badge. For many, Brock served as a wake-up call. Starters like Charmander and Pikachu struggled against his team, forcing players to learn about type advantages and catch other Pokemon to even the odds. Beyond the battle, Brock also became one of the most recognizable characters in the anime, known for his loyalty, humor, and constant cooking. In the games, his quiet determination and rocky defense style symbolized the first true test of a trainer's strength in the Indigo League journey. After Pewter, the next big trial awaited in Cerulean City, where Misty commanded her water-type team. Her badge, the Cascade Badge, was earned only by those who could withstand her stormy speed and power. In the anime, Misty became one of Ash's first companions, balancing a fiery temper with a fierce loyalty. In the games, she represented a shift in challenge. Whereas Brock pushed players to diversify, Misty punished unprepared teams with relentless water attacks. The design of her gym, with pools and trainers swimming between platforms, further emphasized her aquatic theme. Winning here wasn't just about brute force, it was about strategy and adaptability, key lessons for surviving the Indigo League ahead. In Vermilion City, players encountered Lieutenant Surge, the self-proclaimed Lightning American. His gym specialized in electric types, most famously his powerful Raichu, and victory here awarded the Thunder Badge. The puzzle leading to him digging through trash cans to find hidden switches frustrated many players, making the battle feel like a hard-earned reward. Surge himself had a distinct backstory. A war veteran who trained electric Pokemon for their speed and power, hinting at a darker world behind Kanto's cheerful surface. His gym taught players another lesson: how electric types could dominate if left unchecked, and why balance in a team was essential to overcoming the growing difficulty of the journey. The fourth badge often came from Erica, the calm and elegant grass-type master of Celadon City. Her badge was the Rainbow Badge, reflecting both her nature-inspired team and the sprawling diversity of her home city. Her gym stood out for being filled with flowers and female trainers, emphasizing beauty alongside strength. In battle, her Vileplume was the highlight, capable of inflicting status conditions that frustrated opponents. Erica's role symbolized the harmony between nature and strength, making her gym as much about patience as about power. Beating her marked a moment of growth as players moved deeper into Kanto's largest city and began to uncover its hidden underworld of Team Rocket. Further south lay Fuchsia City, home to Koga, the poison-type master. His badge, the Soul Badge, symbolized cunning and endurance. Koga's gym was built like a maze, full of invisible walls that forced players to carefully navigate before reaching him. His Pokemon lineup relied heavily on status effects like poison and paralysis, punishing trainers who weren't prepared with antidotes. Later in the series, Koga would ascend to the rank of Elite Four, leaving his daughter Janine to take over the gym. This passing of the torch gave Fuchsia's legacy a family feel, tying its identity to tradition. His gym represented the increasing complexity of challenges, as battles were no longer just about raw-type matchups, but about attrition and careful planning. One of the toughest leaders in Kanto was Sabrina, master of psychic types and holder of the Marsh Badge. Her reputation for being cold and mysterious was reinforced by her team, which featured Alakazam, a Pokemon notorious for its speed and overwhelming special attacks. At the time, psychic types were considered overpowered, with very few counters, making Sabrina a true wall for many players. Her gym included teleportation pads, disorienting challengers with endless loops until they found the right path. In the anime, her portrayal leaned into the eerie, with psychic powers that bordered on supernatural. Beating Sabrina was a milestone, proof that a trainer had matured into a true indigo contender. On Cinnabar Island, the fiery Blaine waited, in a gym themed around riddles and volcanic energy. His fire-type team, led by his iconic Arcanine or Rapidash, tested both knowledge and battle skill. The volcano badge symbolized explosive power, fitting the island setting atop volcanic terrain. Blaine himself was eccentric, often shown as witty and a bit unpredictable. His riddles added a playful touch to his otherwise intimidating presence. In both the games and anime, his character emphasized the raw, destructive beauty of fire Pokemon, marking him as one of the most memorable leaders. By the time players earned his badge, they were nearing the end of their journey, standing just one step away from the Indigo Plateau. In Viridian City, the final gym hides a shocking twist. Its leader is none other than Giovanni, the boss of Team Rocket. Throughout the journey, players battled his organization in caves, buildings, and even at Sylph Corsi, only to discover that he also stands as the last gym leader. His specialty is ground-type Pokemon, and his badge, the Earth Badge, symbolizes both strength and corruption. Giovanni's dual role connects Kanto's story threads, tying together the Crime Syndicate and the Indigo League Challenge. After his defeat, he disappears, abandoning his gym and leaving players to face the Elite Four. This moment shocked many first-time trainers, cementing Giovanni as one of the most iconic villains in Pokemon history. Saffron City holds the headquarters of Sylph Corsi, the largest corporation in Kanto. Its massive skyscraper towers above the city, with 11 floors filled with warp tile puzzles and enemy trainers. For many players, navigating this building was one of the longest and most complex challenges in the game. Team Rocket had invaded the company, attempting to steal its technology for their own schemes. Battling through floors of grunts, solving warp puzzles, and eventually facing Giovanni himself gave the building the feeling of a dungeon disguised as an office tower. Sylph Corsi's presence reflected the theme of technology in Kanto, and its takeover made Saffron a symbol of corporate power under siege. One of Sylph Corsi's greatest achievements was the creation of the Master Ball, a unique Pokeball with a 100% success rate. Unlike other Pokeballs, which could fail and allow rare Pokemon to escape, the Master Ball never missed. This made it one of the most valuable items in the entire game. Many players chose to save it for Mewtwo in Cerulean Cave, ensuring that the powerful psychic type could not break free. The Master Ball also fueled myths, with some children believing that hidden methods existed to obtain more than one. In reality, only one was given, making the choice of when to use it an unforgettable moment in every trainer's adventure. In Lavender Town, players encountered one of the game's most haunting mysteries: the ghosts that filled Pokemon Tower. Without a special tool, these spirits appeared as eerie, unidentifiable figures that frightened trainers and blocked progress. Only with the Sylph Scope, invented by Sylph Corsi, could the true forms of these ghosts be revealed. Suddenly, what looked like formless phantoms became familiar Pokemon such as Ghastly and Haunter. The Sylph Scope was more than a gameplay tool. It was a symbol of technology piercing the unknown, turning fear into understanding. This detail gave Lavender Town its unsettling atmosphere, making the journey through the tower one of Kanto's most memorable moments. Pokemon Tower itself is one of the darkest locations in the entire series. Unlike most areas in Kanto, it was not just a battlefield, but a cemetery. Here, trainers mourned their lost companions, and ghostly encounters haunted every floor. The climax of this story came with the spirit of a Marowak, the mother of a Cubone that had been killed by Team Rocket. Unlike other battles, this ghost could not be caught. It had to be calmed and freed. This moment taught players that not every Pokemon could be owned, and not every battle was about victory. It introduced themes of loss and compassion in a game otherwise filled with adventure and discovery. After the Marowak's spirit was put to rest, Mr. Fuji, a kind old man in Lavender Town, showed his gratitude. He gifted the player the Poke Flute, a mystical instrument capable of awakening sleeping Pokemon. This item became essential for progressing through the game, as two Snorlax blocked major routes. The Poke Flute symbolized music as a form of connection, tying compassion and melody to progress. Mr. Fuji himself was a mysterious figure, implied to have once worked with scientists involved in cloning, though in the main story, he appears only as a caretaker of abandoned Pokemon. His role in Lavender highlighted the theme of kindness in a region shadowed by grief. Saffron City stands as the largest and most bustling location in all of Kanto. It is a hub of commerce, technology, and competition, featuring skyscrapers, busy streets, and multiple important buildings. What makes Saffron especially unique is that it houses not one, but two gyms. The official gym belongs to Sabrina, master of psychic Pokemon, while the smaller fighting dojo serves as a training hall where martial artists test their skills. This dual gym setup gave the city a feeling of layered culture, mystical psychic powers on one side, raw physical discipline on the other. Saffron's scale and complexity made it feel like a capital, the beating heart of the Kanto region. Deep within Sylph Cove, after navigating countless battles and warp tiles, players received an unexpected gift, a Lapras. A grateful employee rewarded the trainer with this rare water and ice type Pokemon, symbolizing hope in the middle of chaos. Lapras stood out for its gentle nature and unique ability to ferry people across water. Many players came to treasure it as a loyal companion, especially since it arrived at a level strong enough to be useful right away. The moment was striking because it contrasted the tension of Team Rocket's takeover with a gesture of kindness. For many players, Lapras became a lasting memory of the Saffron City storyline. Celadon City, the largest commercial hub in Kanto, hid a dangerous secret beneath its streets. Behind the flashing lights and slot machines of the game corner was Team Rocket's hidden base. By pressing a switch disguised as a poster, players could descend into a multi-level hideout filled with rocket grunts, puzzles, and their boss, Giovanni. This base tied gambling and crime together, reflecting Team Rocket's control of the underworld. The discovery shocked many players who had first walked into the game corner simply to play with slot machines. Instead, it became one of the most important story beats in the region, exposing Team Rocket's reach into everyday life. At the heart of Celadon stood the massive department store, the biggest shop in the region. Spread across multiple floors, it offered everything from basic Pokeballs and healing items to rare TMs and evolutionary stones. For many players, it was the first time they could truly customize their team's movesets or evolve special Pokemon like Eevee into Vaporeon, Jolteon, or Flareon. The store also reflected Celadon's role as a bustling metropolis, contrasting the small town shops scattered throughout Kanto. Its rooftop vending machines even hid secrets, offering fresh water and soda needed to bribe guards and access Saffron City. The department store was more than a shop, it was a hub of strategy and exploration. In Vermilion City, a visit to the Pokemon fan club leads to one of the most useful rewards in the game, the bike voucher. The club's chairman is so passionate about his Rapidash that he rewards trainers for listening to him talk endlessly about its beauty and speed. In exchange, he gives the player a voucher redeemable for a bicycle in Cerulean City, bypassing the outrageous cost of 1 million Poké Dollars. The bike itself becomes a beloved tool, dramatically speeding up travel and making exploration feel smoother. For many players, this quirky side quest stood out as a charming reminder that sometimes the biggest rewards in Kanto came from simply listening and showing patience. North of Cerulean City lies the famous Nugget Bridge, a gauntlet of trainers lined up to test a player's strength. After defeating all of them, the final prize is not what it seems. Instead of a friendly reward, the last trainer reveals himself as a member of Team Rocket, attempting to recruit the player into their ranks. It was one of the first big twists in the game, showing Rocket's influence spread far beyond hidden bases and corporate takeovers. The true reward, a valuable nugget item, could be sold for a large profit. This bridge blended challenge, reward, and story in a single stretch of road, making it unforgettable. Mount Moon is one of Kanto's earliest dungeons, a dark cave filled with Zubat and Geodude, but it holds something far more valuable: fossils. Deep inside, trainers must choose between the Helix fossil and the Dome fossil. The Helix can later revive into Omanite, while the Dome transforms into Kabuto, both ancient creatures brought back to life by science on Cinnabar Island. This choice was permanent, leaving the other fossil behind forever. It gave players a sense of weight in their decisions, a theme that carried into future games. Over time, the Helix fossil even became a cultural meme, symbolizing luck and divine guidance in fan communities. Cinnabar Island holds a crumbling mansion filled with scientist journals that reveal some of Kanto's darkest secrets. Scattered entries describe the discovery of a rare Pokemon called Mew, followed by experiments that eventually produced the genetically engineered Mewtwo. These fragments of story gave the game an unsettling layer, implying that humans tampered with life itself. The mansion, overrun with wild Pokemon and locked doors, felt eerie and abandoned, as if something terrible had happened there. For many players, uncovering these notes was their first exposure to hidden lore in the series. It remains one of the most haunting and memorable storylines in Kanto. Far to the south lie the Seafoam Islands, a frigid cave system of strong currents and icy caverns. Here, boulders must be pushed into rushing water with a move strength to calm the currents, allowing deeper exploration. At the heart of this frozen labyrinth rests Articuno, the legendary bird of ice. Its sprite filled the screen with regal wings, and its rarity made the discovery unforgettable. Many players spent hours solving the boulder puzzles and battling wild Pokemon just to reach it. The Seafoam Islands blended puzzle solving with myth, making the encounter feel like a true reward for persistence and curiosity. Zapdos, the legendary bird of electricity, makes its home in the abandoned power plant near Cerulean. The building itself is filled with electric types, buzzing with the remnants of technology and forgotten machinery. At its deepest point, Zapdos waits, its sprite bristling with sharp wings and jagged energy. Unlike Articuno, no boulder puzzle blocked the way, just the courage to face a legendary Pokemon head on. For many players, Zapdos was the first legendary bird they encountered, and its electric attacks made it one of the most powerful additions to a team. The power plant's eerie silence combined with its industrial setting made the encounter feel both dangerous and mysterious. Moltres, the fiery member of the legendary bird trio, originally appeared not on an island or power station, but deep inside Victory Road. Reaching it meant players were already near the end of their journey, making the capture feel like a final trial before the Indigo Plateau. Moltres' blazing sprite filled the cavern with a sense of danger and power. In later remakes, its location was shifted to Mount Ember, but in the original Kanto, its place in Victory Road gave it symbolic weight. Fire standing between the trainer and their ultimate challenge. For many, Moltres was the hardest bird to reach, but also one of the most rewarding captures. Beneath the surface of Kanto lies Diglett's Cave, a long underground tunnel connecting Route 2 near Pewter City to Route 11 near Vermilion. Filled with Diglett and the rare Dug Trio, this cave served as both a training ground and a shortcut, linking the early game region to later areas. It became especially useful once players had obtained abilities like Flash to navigate its darkness. Dugtrio's sudden appearances often caught trainers by surprise, dealing heavy damage with powerful ground-type moves. The cave was more than just a passage. It was a reminder that Kanto's world was interconnected in surprising ways, rewarding players who explored thoroughly. The Safari Zone, located in Fuchsia City, offered one of Kanto's most unique experiences. Instead of traditional battles, trainers were given safari balls and tasked with catching Pokemon using bait, rocks, and careful luck. Rare species like Kangaskhan, Tauros, and Chansey could only be found here, making it a treasure trove for collectors. However, the mechanics often frustrated players, as Pokemon could flee at any moment. The zone also included a hidden prize, the HM for Surf, essential for reaching new areas. The Safari Zone was both a test of patience and a place of wonder, making it one of the most talked about locations in the game. Cycling Road provided a simple but memorable detail of Kanto's geography, stretching from Celadon City down to Fuchsia. This sloped route let players ride their bicycles at high speeds, coasting downhill past trainers and bikers. It was one of the first areas that gave a sense of motion and scale, with the player character visibly speeding forward. For many, it became a favorite route, both for training against the numerous opponents and for the thrill of fast travel. The road's design symbolized progress, a smooth descent toward the southern parts of Kanto, and another reminder of how exploration was always tied to freedom and discovery. Beneath the bustling gates of Saffron City lie the underground paths, quiet tunnels connecting routes 5 to 7 and routes 6 to 8. These passages offered shortcuts that avoided the guards blocking Saffron early in the game, letting trainers move between eastern and western Kanto without needing access to the city itself. Their dim design, with long stretches of shadow and occasional trainers, contrasted with the bright surface routes, For many players, discovering the paths felt like uncovering a secret network beneath the region, a reminder that even in a simple 8-bit world, hidden layers of travel made Kanto feel interconnected and alive. They weren't flashy, but they added subtle depth to the region's design. At the start of the adventure, Viridian City's gym stands mysteriously locked, a curiosity that lingers in players' minds for most of the game. While other towns open their gyms as soon as you arrive, Viridian remains sealed until all other badges are collected. This design made the city feel both familiar and incomplete, as players often pass through it multiple times before finally uncovering its secret. The reveal that Giovanni, leader of Team Rocket, commanded the gym made the long wait worthwhile. By keeping Viridian closed until the end, the developers ensured that the player's journey would come full circle, finishing where it had almost begun. The Indigo Plateau serves as the grand headquarters of the Pokémon League, perched at the northern edge of Kanto. Here, the Elite Four and the reigning champion await challengers who have proven themselves by collecting every badge. Its lofty setting above Victory Road gave it the feeling of a final climb, both literally and figuratively. The plateau was more than just a building. It represented mastery, determination, and the end of a long journey. When Gold and Silver released years later, the Indigo Plateau became even more significant, as it served both Kanto and Johto, uniting two regions under one legendary challenge. One of the most exciting twists in Pokemon Gold and Silver was the ability to return to Kanto after completing Johto's main story. Suddenly, familiar towns, routes, and gyms reopened for exploration, allowing players to collect the original 8 badges once more. This gave Kanto a sense of continuity, showing that the region lived on even after the events of Red and Blue. Some gym leaders had changed, while others remained, but the overall map felt both nostalgic and refreshed. It was a groundbreaking idea at the time, essentially giving players 2 regions in one game and solidifying Kanto's identity as the eternal foundation of the Pokemon world. Route 1, the very first stretch of land between Pallet Town and Viridian City, holds a special place in Pokemon history. Here, players first encountered common Pokemon like Pidgey and Rattata, learning the basics of wild battles and capture. The route itself was short and simple, yet it carried immense weight. It was the first step in every trainer's journey. The gentle music and straightforward layout introduced the rhythm of exploration, combat, and progress. For many fans, the memory of walking through Route 1, catching a first companion, and hearing the battle music for the first time remains one of the most nostalgic moments in gaming history. The name Pallet Town carries symbolic meaning, drawn from the word palette, an artist's set of blank colors. Just as a palette offers endless possibilities for creation, Pallet Town serves as the blank beginning of a player's adventure. Its peaceful music, simple houses, and a quiet seaside location embody the idea of starting small before growing into something much greater. The design philosophy was clear. Give the player a humble home, then send them into a world full of colors, creatures, and experiences. Pallet's name is one of the many subtle cultural touches that made Kanto feel carefully crafted and meaningful. Professor Oak, the kindly researcher of Pallet Town, plays a crucial role in every trainer's journey. At the very start, he gives the player the Pokédex, a revolutionary device meant to catalog all 151 Pokémon across Kanto. This gift transforms the journey from a personal adventure into a grand scientific mission. Catch them all, not just for fun, but for knowledge. Oak's presence anchored the story, giving players both guidance and a sense of responsibility. His rivalry with Professor Elm and Johto and later researchers in other regions reinforced his role as the original authority in the Pokemon world, a mentor figure whose impact still echoes decades later. The rival character in Red and Blue delivers one of the most surprising twists in Kanto's story. After facing the Elite Four, players expect to claim the champion's throne, only to discover that their rival has already arrived, defeated them, and taken the title first. This moment created one of the most dramatic battles in the game, with the rival boasting a full, powerful team that mirrored the player's progress. Defeating him became not just a victory, but a symbolic conclusion to the rivalry that stretched all the way back to Pallet Town. It was a storytelling choice that made the ending far more satisfying and memorable. Hidden Machines, or HMS, shaped much of the Kanto journey. The 5 HMs, Cut, Fly, Surf, Strength, and Flash, weren't just moves for battle, they were tools that unlocked the world itself. Cut allowed access to new paths. Surf opened the seas. Strength moved massive boulders. And Flash lit up dark caves. These mechanics encourage players to catch and train specific Pokemon capable of learning them, intertwining exploration with team building. While later generations would phase out HMs, in Kanto they were essential, making them some of the most remembered mechanics of the first games. They symbolized the idea that progress was not just about badges, but about teamwork and creativity. The SS Anne, a grand luxury cruise ship docked in Vermilion City, remains one of the most iconic locations in Kanto. Boarding the ship introduced players to a series of rival battles and trainer challenges, as well as the chance to explore a unique setting filled with cabins, dining halls, and sailors. At its climax, the player received HM01 Cut from the ship's captain, unlocking new areas of the map. Once the ship departed, it never returned, giving the location a fleeting, almost mythical quality. For many fans, the SS Anne became the center of playground myths, from secret hidden Pokemon beneath its truck to imagined ways of bringing it back. At the start of the adventure, the gym in Viridian City stands mysteriously closed. Players pass by it early, eager to begin collecting badges, only to find the doors locked. This detail planted a seed of curiosity that lingered through much of the journey. Why was the gym closed, and who was its leader? The mystery built suspense, encouraging players to press forward through Kanto's other gyms. By the time the doors finally opened, the reveal of Giovanni as the hidden leader brought everything full circle. The locked gym was more than a delay. It was a narrative tool, turning a simple building into one of the most intriguing mysteries of the entire region. The Indigo Plateau is the grand finale of Kanto, a majestic headquarters where the Elite Four and Champion wait. After climbing through the dangerous Victory Road, players emerge into a place that feels both calm and intimidating. Its towering design, combined with the knowledge of what lies ahead, gave it an aura of prestige. Here, trainers faced Lorelei, Bruno, Agatha, and Lance before finally battling the champion. Later in Pokemon Gold and Silver, this same location also became the League headquarters for Johto, tying the two regions together. It was proof that the plateau wasn't just a landmark, but the very heart of Pokemon competition. One of the most exciting features of the Johto sequels was the ability to return to Kanto. After completing the Johto storyline, the player unlocked an entirely new region to explore, reuniting with familiar towns and challenging updated gyms. It was the ultimate reward for finishing one journey, a second one waiting just across the sea. This feature made gold and silver feel enormous, offering essentially two full adventures in one. For fans of the original games, revisiting Kanto felt nostalgic, like coming home to a place filled with memories. The idea of a sequel connecting two regions was groundbreaking and helped cement Kanto's status as timeless. Route 1 is the humble beginning for every Kanto trainer, stretching between Pallet Town and Viridian City. It introduces players to wild Pokemon battles for the very first time. Pidgey and Rattata appear here, teaching players the mechanics of catching, battling, and training. The route itself is short and simple, but its significance cannot be overstated. It represents the first step on a long journey, the spark of adventure. Many players still recall their first capture on this route as a defining moment of their childhood gaming experiences. Though simple in design, Route 1 remains one of the most iconic stretches of land in all of Pokemon. The name Pallet Town carries symbolic weight that perfectly suits its role in the story. Derived from palette, it suggests a blank canvas, a place waiting to be filled with color and creativity. Starting in palette gives the sense of beginning with nothing. No badges, no Pokemon, just potential. From there, every step the player takes adds new color to the journey. It's a quiet, seaside town with little more than a lab, some houses, and the gentle waves, but its understated charm has stuck with fans for decades. Pallet Town isn't just a starting point, it's a symbol of possibility, a reminder that great adventures often begin in the simplest of places. Professor Oak is the first guiding figure in the world of Pokemon. As the region's researcher, he gives the player not only their starter Pokemon, but also the Pokedex, turning an ordinary adventure into a grand mission to catalog every species. His role sets the stage for the idea that Pokemon are more than just companions for battle. They are subjects of wonder and discovery. Oak's calm demeanor and encouragement gave players confidence as they set off into the unknown. His presence lingers throughout the series, often referenced as the standard against which future professors are compared. In many ways, Oak is the father figure of the Pokemon world, grounding Kanto's story with wisdom and purpose. The rival in Pokemon Red and Blue remains one of the most memorable in the entire series. Not only does he constantly appear to challenge the player throughout the journey, but he also beats them to the champion's throne at the Indigo Plateau. This twist shocked many players, transforming what could have been a predictable ending into a climactic showdown. His team is built to counter the player's choices, making the final battle both personal and difficult. Defeating him isn't just about winning a match. It's about overcoming years of rivalry, proving who truly deserves the title of champion. It was one of the most satisfying narrative payoffs in the original games. Hidden Machines, or HMS, shaped much of how players explored Kanto. The 5 main HMs were Cut, Fly, Surf, Strength, and Flash. Each one doubled as both a battle move and a tool for progressing through the world. Cut cleared small trees. Fly allowed instant travel between towns. Surf opened up the seas. Strength moved heavy boulders, and Flash lit up dark caves. These mechanics turned team building into puzzle solving as players needed Pokemon that could learn specific HMs to continue, while later games phased them out. In Kanto, they were essential, giving a sense of progress and adventure as each new HM opened up fresh areas to explore. The SS Anne remains one of Kanto's most famous set pieces. This luxurious cruise ship, docked in Vermilion City, allowed players to explore cabins filled with trainers, sailors, and rival battles. The highlight was reaching the captain's quarters, where the seasick captain rewarded the player with HM01 cut. This ability allowed access to new routes and gyms, making the SS Anne both a narrative and mechanical turning point. Once the ship set sail, it never returned, giving it a fleeting, almost mythical feel. Many myths sprang up around it, including the legendary rumor of a hidden Mew under a nearby truck, further cementing the SS Anne as a playground legend. Vermilion City's gym introduced one of the trickiest puzzles in Kanto. Before reaching Lieutenant Surge, players had to search through trash cans to find two hidden switches that opened the electric doors to his arena. The challenge was random and often frustrating, forcing players to flip cans over and over until luck struck. Yet this difficulty made finally reaching Surge all the more satisfying. The puzzle reflected his electric theme, simulating the idea of a faulty circuit that needed to be reconnected. Combined with his powerful Raichu, Vermilion's gym became one of the most memorable challenges in the early game, blending humor, frustration, and triumph in equal measure. Rock Tunnel, located between Cerulean and Lavender, is one of the most intimidating areas in Kanto. Without HM Flash, the cave is nearly impossible to navigate, as the screen is almost entirely dark, leaving only the player sprite visible. Trainers who didn't obtain Flash from a helpful NPC before entering often struggled, stumbling through endless battles with Zubat and Geodude. The cave forced players to prepare, teaching the importance of planning before heading into new areas. For those who did have Flash, the path became far easier, but still lengthy and filled with trainers. Rock Tunnel was a reminder that Kanto wasn't always friendly. Sometimes it demanded patience and resourcefulness to push forward.
In Saffron City sits the Fighting Dojo, once a proud gym that specialized in martial arts Pokémon. However, it lost official gym status to Sabrina's Psychic Gym, a change that carried both narrative and gameplay meaning. At the time, psychic Pokémon were considered overwhelmingly strong, while fighting types struggled against them. This imbalance was symbolized in the dojo's demotion. Still, the building wasn't useless. Players who defeated the trainers inside were rewarded with a choice of either Hitmonlee or Hitmonchan, rare fighting Pokémon unavailable elsewhere. Though no longer official, the dojo remained a fun side quest, serving as a reminder that not all traditions survive in the ever-changing world of Pokémon.
One of Saffron City's most unusual characters is the girl known simply as Copycat. Living in a quiet house near the gym, she is famous for her ability to mimic anyone she meets, repeating their words and behaviors perfectly. Her obsession with this talent even extends to her house, where she surrounds herself with dolls and decorations. In some games, interacting with her can lead to receiving valuable items, including moves like Mimic that reflect her personality. Copycat is a small but memorable character, the kind of detail that made Kanto feel alive. She's not a gym leader, a villain, or a rival, just a quirky, unforgettable part of the region's charm. Sylph Koshu's massive headquarters was more than just a tall building. It was a complex dungeon. Across its 11 floors, players had to navigate warp tiles that teleported them to different rooms, as well as locked doors requiring the card key. The combination of warp puzzles, key hunts, and trainer battles created one of the most challenging environments in Kanto. Each floor tested both patience and memory, and it was easy to get lost among the maze-like layouts. For many players, Sylph Kofra was the first time a Pokemon game truly felt like a puzzle dungeon. Its clever design made defeating Team Rocket inside feel all the more rewarding. Among the treasures hidden inside Sylph Kofra was the Master Ball, one of the most valuable rewards in the entire game. Unlike other Pokeballs, which had a chance of failure, the Master Ball guaranteed a capture every time. Most players saved it for the legendary Mewtwo in Cerulean Cave, ensuring that it couldn't escape. Because the game only provided a single Master Ball, its use carried great importance. Spending it on anything else often led to regret later. The Master Ball wasn't just an item, it was a symbol of power, a rare gift from Sylph Kofra that gave every trainer one guaranteed success in a world full of chance. The biggest takeover by Team Rocket happened inside Sylph Kofra's Saffron headquarters. Their attempt to seize control of the corporation showed just how far-reaching their ambitions were, extending from underground hideouts to major businesses. The invasion turned an ordinary office building into a battleground filled with rocket grunts and powerful executives. At the top, Giovanni himself awaited, testing this player once again before retreating. This event tied together many threads of the story, proving that Rocket's influence was more than just petty crime. It was a true threat to all of Kanto. The battle to free Sylph Kofra became one of the most dramatic and memorable moments of the game. One of the most emotional storylines in Kanto takes place in Pokemon Tower, where the restless spirit of a Marowak haunts the upper floors. This Marowak was the mother of a Cubone, killed by Team Rocket while trying to protect her child. Unlike other ghostly encounters, this one could not be caught. It had to be calmed and released. The encounter stood out because it added genuine sadness to the game, showing that Pokemon could experience loss and grief. It gave Lavender Town a unique weight and turned the tower into a place not just of battles, but of mourning. For many players, it was the first moment Pokemon felt truly emotional. In Fuchsia City, players encountered the Warden, the caretaker of the Safari Zone. When first meeting him, he is unable to speak clearly, as he has lost his gold teeth. These are hidden within the Safari Zone, and returning them rewards the player with HM04 strength, allowing the movement of heavy boulders. This quirky side quest blended humor with utility, making the Warden's missing teeth a memorable part of the adventure. His character also added charm to Fuchsia City, a place already full of surprises and unusual activities. While small in scale, the Gold Teeth storyline showed how even silly details could hold important rewards in Kanto's journey. On Cinnabar Island, players discovered a laboratory dedicated to the revival of fossils. Scientists here could restore ancient Pokemon from items collected earlier in the game, such as the Helix fossil, Dome fossil, and Old Amber. This scientific breakthrough brought prehistoric creatures like Omanite, Kabuto, and Aerodactyl back to life, blending myth and technology in a fascinating way. The lab's existence tied together several locations, from Mount, Moon to Pewter Museum, creating a sense of continuity. It also highlighted the region's theme of discovery, showing that Kanto wasn't just about battling. It was about uncovering mysteries of the past. For many, the revived fossil Pokemon became some of their most prized companions. Route 12 is remembered for one of Kanto's most iconic roadblocks, a sleeping Snorlax. This massive Pokemon blocked the only path forward, forcing trainers to take a long detour until they obtained the Pokeflute from Mr. Fuji. Awakening Snorlax turned into a memorable overworld battle, with the creature refusing to move peacefully. Capturing or defeating it was the only way to progress. This event gave the impression that the world was alive, with Pokemon shaping the landscape itself. Snorlax wasn't just another battle, it was a reminder that even exploration required interaction with the creatures of Kanto, blending story, puzzle, and challenge into one iconic moment. The Indigo Plateau is home to the Elite Four, Kanto's ultimate challenge. Lorelei, Bruno, Agatha, and Lance each specialized in unique strategies that tested every skill a trainer had learned. Lorelei used ice types to slow and freeze. Bruno relied on powerful fighting and rock Pokemon. Agatha brought cunning ghost types with status moves, and Lance's mighty dragon team stood as the final test. Defeating them all required not just strong Pokemon, but careful planning, resource management, and persistence. For many players, the Elite Four represented the pinnacle of difficulty, a trial that pushed them to use everything they had learned since stepping out of Pallet Town. It was the perfect climax to Kanto's journey. When Pokemon Gold and Silver were created, their developers carefully planned the Johto gym leaders to avoid overlapping with Kanto's types. This meant that Johto's gyms introduced fresh challenges, like Bug and Dark, instead of repeating common Kanto types like Rock and Water. The result was a region that felt distinct while still connected, with gym leaders that stood apart from their Kanto counterparts. This decision showed how much thought went into balancing the series, ensuring that players felt like they were entering a new world with new rules. It also reinforced Kanto's identity, allowing both regions to shine without overshadowing each other. Pokemon, Let's Go Pikachu, and Let's Go Eevee gave players the chance to revisit Kanto with modern graphics and mechanics. Released on the Nintendo Switch, these games combined the nostalgic story of Red and Blue with simplified catching inspired by Pokemon Go. Kanto's cities and routes were lovingly reimagined, allowing fans to see familiar landmarks in a new light. The addition of Pokemon following the player on the overworld made the region feel alive, while new features streamlined the experience for both new and veteran fans. These remakes proved that Kanto still had magic, capable of captivating a new generation while honoring the original games. Saffron City's Sylph-Cumber skyscraper has left such an impression on players that it even found its way into another Nintendo series, Super Smash Bros. The rooftop of the building became a stage in the early entries of the fighting game, complete with platforms and hazards that referenced its towering design. For players who had braved its warp tile puzzles and defeated Team Rocket within its walls, the rooftop was instantly recognizable. Its inclusion in Smash was a tribute to the Pokemon's importance in gaming history, proving that even small details of Kanto were iconic enough to be celebrated in entirely different genres of games. On the 5th floor of Sylph-Cauldron, players encounter two of the most important resources in the building. Here lies the card key, a vital item that unlocks the corporation's many doors, and a nurse who offers healing for the player's team. These two details made the floor a turning point, recovering exhausted Pokemon while gaining the key to the building's secrets. Many players felt relief upon reaching this level, as it gave them the strength to continue the long climb through grunts and puzzles. The fifth floor perfectly balanced challenge and reward, serving as a small but critical milestone within one of Kanto's toughest dungeons. Geographically, Kanto and Johto are directly connected, sharing a continuous landmass. In gold and silver, this became clear when players were able to cross from Johto into Kanto after completing the main story. The map design highlighted how these two regions existed side by side, not as separate worlds, but as neighboring countries with intertwined histories. This continuity helped expand the Pokemon universe, making it feel more like a cohesive world than a collection of isolated adventures. The connection between Kanto and Johto gave the series a sense of growth, as if each new generation built naturally upon the last. The Pokemon franchise has since expanded into 9 major regions, but historically, it all begins with Kanto. Every new region, Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, Unova, Kalos, Alola, Galar, and Paldea, owes its existence to the design philosophy first established in Kanto. Towns, routes, gyms, and the ultimate challenge of the league became the framework upon which every adventure was built. While later regions brought new twists and unique cultures, Kanto remains the blueprint. Its status as the original ensures that whenever Pokemon history is told, Kanto is remembered as the foundation, the place where the journey of catching them all first began. When first reaching Saffron City, players found its streets blocked by Team Rocket. The city was inaccessible until Lavender Town's Pokemon Tower storyline was completed, giving the adventure a sense of sequence and narrative tension. This blockade made Saffron feel especially important, a goal that could not be rushed. Once cleared, the city revealed its scale with multiple gyms and the massive Sylph Carsive skyscraper. The restriction reminded players that exploration wasn't always open-ended. Sometimes progress required patience and story completion. This small design decision made Saffron's eventual opening feel like a reward, a payoff after dealing with Lavender's ghostly trials. Sylph Coast wasn't just a plot device in the story, it was also canonically responsible for much of the Pokemon world's technology. From Pokeballs to TMs, this corporation provided the tools trainers relied on every day. The company's connection to items like the Master Ball and the Sylph Scope highlighted its role in shaping Kanto society. Team Rocket's attempt to seize Sylph Cosseum made sense because controlling it would mean controlling the very future of Pokemon training. For players, the corporation became a symbol of both innovation and vulnerability, a reminder that even in a world of adventure, technology played a central role. The inspiration for Pallet Town, Kanto's quiet starting point, came from Pokemon creator Satoshi Tajiri's own childhood hometown. Tajiri grew up exploring rural neighborhoods, catching insects, and imagining adventures in nature. These experiences heavily influenced the design of Pallet Town, a small, peaceful village surrounded by grasslands and forests. Its simplicity mirrored Tajiri's real-life memories, grounding the fantastical world of Pokemon in something deeply personal. This connection gave Pallet Town authenticity, making it feel like a place that could truly exist. By rooting Kanto's starting point in his own past, Tajiri ensured that every player's journey began with the same sense of wonder he once felt. Kanto's geography was inspired by the real-world Kanto region in Japan, particularly the area surrounding Tokyo Bay. The in-game map reflects a coastal shape with Pallet Town by the sea, a northern plateau, and major cities arranged. in a way reminiscent of real Japanese cities. This grounding in reality helped make Kanto feel believable, even with all its fantastical creatures. For Japanese players in the 1990s, the familiarity of the landscape may have added a layer of recognition, while for international players, it created a region that felt both exotic and authentic. This subtle design decision tied Pokemon's fantasy world to real geography, rooting its adventure in a setting that had echoes of everyday life. When Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver released, they brought back one of the most beloved features of the Gold and Silver games: the ability to revisit Kanto after completing Johto's story. This expansion doubled the adventure, giving players a chance to rediscover familiar locations with updated graphics and new details. Exploring Kanto again felt both nostalgic and fresh, especially as some gym leaders had changed their teams and certain areas reflected the passage of time. This design choice made the remakes feel expansive and generous, offering not one but two regions to explore. For many fans, returning to Kanto was the highlight of the Johto sequels, a homecoming to where the journey first began. The Seafoam Islands, located to the south of Kanto, are a chilly maze of caverns and rushing currents. The islands are home to a variety of ice and water type Pokemon, making them a favorite spot for trainers seeking to diversify their teams. At the deepest point rests Articuno, the legendary bird of ice, waiting behind a series of strength puzzles involving boulders and water currents. For many players, the Seafoam Islands were both exciting and intimidating, as the puzzles could be confusing without careful planning. The combination of strong wild Pokemon and the reward of a legendary encounter made the area stand out as one of Kanto's most memorable natural landmarks. Pewter City's gym holds the distinction of being the very first rock-type gym in Pokemon history. Led by Brock, it tested trainers early in the game with sturdy rock Pokemon like Geodude and Onix. For players who chose Charmander or Pikachu as their starter, this gym was particularly tough, forcing them to catch and train additional Pokemon to stand a chance. The battle introduced the importance of type matchups, teaching new players that brute force alone would not guarantee victory. Brock's role as both gym leader and mentor figure in the anime reinforced his significance, making Pewter City Gym a defining moment for countless trainers starting their adventure in Kanto. Fuchsia City's Safari Zone introduced unique mechanics that set it apart from every other area in Kanto. Instead of weakening Pokemon through battle, players were given Safari Balls and had to use bait or rocks to influence capture chances. Rare Pokemon like Kangaskhan, Chansey, and Tauros could be found here, making it a treasure trove for collectors. However, the randomness of the system often led to frustration, as prized Pokemon could easily flee. Despite this, the Safari Zone became one of the most talked about features in the original games. It also rewarded players with HM03 Surf and the Gold Teeth quest, making it both a novelty and a critical part of the adventure. Celadon City's game corner seemed like an innocent place to spend coins on slot machines, but behind its bright lights and flashing screens lay a dark secret. The game corner was actually controlled by Team Rocket, with a hidden switch behind a poster opening the path to their underground hideout. This revelation connected gambling to organized crime, showing the reach of Rocket's influence in Kanto. For players, the thrill of discovering a major villain base beneath an arcade added excitement to an already vibrant city. The game corner remains one of the most memorable story twists in the region, turning an everyday activity into the gateway to a criminal underworld. Lavender Town is remembered for one of the eeriest pieces of music in gaming history. Its unsettling theme, with high pitched tones and haunting melody, gave the otherwise simple town an atmosphere of unease. Combined with the presence of Pokemon Tower and its ghostly inhabitants, the music helped solidify Lavender as the haunted town of Kanto. Over the years, the tune has become infamous, spawning urban legends and creepypasta stories about its supposed effects. While those myths are exaggerated, the impact of the music is undeniable. Even today, hearing the Lavender Town theme instantly transports players back to that ghostly village and its stories of loss and the afterlife. Lavender Town also introduced one of the most somber themes in Pokemon, the concept of death. Within Pokemon Tower, players learn the story of a Marowak who was killed by Team Rocket while protecting its Cubone child. This event was striking as it showed that Pokemon could experience mortality and grief, adding unexpected depth to the game's narrative. Unlike most encounters, the ghostly Marowak could not be caught, only calmed and set free. For many players, this storyline was their first exposure to genuine sadness in what seemed like a cheerful adventure. It gave Lavender Town a unique emotional weight that continues to resonate with fans decades later. During the events at Pokemon Tower, Mr. Fuji, a kind old man who cared for orphan Pokemon, was kidnapped by Team Rocket. Rescuing him became a key part of Lavender Town's storyline, adding another human element to the town's themes of compassion and loss. Mr. Fuji's abduction tied Rocket's cruelty to both people and Pokemon, reinforcing their role as villains beyond simple theft. His character, soft spoken and deeply caring, served as a symbol of kindness amidst the darkness of Lavender. Freeing him felt like more than just a victory. It was a reminder that courage and empathy went hand in hand during the player's journey through Kanto. After the Marowak's spirit is freed and Team Rocket is defeated in Pokemon Tower, Mr. Fuji thanks the player by giving them the Poke Flute. This special instrument has the power to awaken sleeping Pokemon, most notably the Snorlax that block key routes across Kanto. The Poke Flute's role went beyond being a simple item. It carried symbolic meaning as well, turning music into a tool of connection and progress. Instead of battling to remove obstacles, players used a soothing sound to communicate. This gentle design choice reflected the idea that not all problems in the Pokemon world are solved with force, and sometimes kindness can open the way forward. Viridian City's gym is unusual compared to the others in Kanto. Unlike Pewter, Cerulean, or Celadon, which can be challenged as soon as you arrive, Viridian Gym remains locked until the very end of the journey. Players can only enter once they've earned the other 7 badges, creating a sense of mystery about its leader. Early in the game, the locked doors spark curiosity, as the gym is clearly visible but inaccessible. This design made Viridian stand out as different, less a stepping stone and more a climactic challenge. By the time it finally opened, players had traveled across the entire region, making Viridian Gym not just another battle, but the symbolic capstone of Kanto's gym journey. In Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, the Viridian Gym received a fascinating twist. Instead of Giovanni returning as its leader, Blue, the player's rival throughout Red and Blue, took over the gym after Giovanni's defeat. This change gave Blue a new role in the story, making him not just a rival, but also an authority figure within Kanto. Facing him at the gym felt like closing the loop, as the trainer you had battled since Route 1 became the final gym leader. His team reflected his adaptable nature, changing depending on his starter, and it cemented his identity as one of the most challenging opponents in Kanto. Blue's promotion made revisiting the gym feel fresh and rewarding. Diglett's Cave was one of Kanto's clever shortcuts, stretching underground between Route 2 near Pewter City and Route 11 near Vermilion. It allowed trainers to bypass the long journey across Saffron and Celadon once it was discovered. The cave itself was filled with Diglett and the occasional Dug trio, making it a good place to train against ground types. While it wasn't the most visually striking location, its practical value was enormous, showing how Kanto's world was interconnected. The existence of this tunnel emphasized exploration and discovery, rewarding players who paid attention to their surroundings. Diglett's Cave may have been simple, but it was one of the best examples of Kanto's smart and efficient map design. The SSN remains one of the most iconic events in the Pokémon series, partly because it is unique. It is the only major passenger ship players ever board in a mainline game. Docked at Vermilion Harbor, the luxury vessel hosted a rival battle, dozens of trainers, and the event where players received HM01 cut from the ship's captain. After this, the SSN departs permanently, disappearing from the game forever. This fleeting nature gave it a sense of mystery, and many myths arose about whether it could be revisited. Some players swore the ship could be saved with glitches or tricks, but officially it remains a one-time adventure, a fleeting moment in Kanto's story. Victory Road is the final cave before the Indigo Plateau, and it lives up to its name, filled with some of the strongest wild Pokémon in Kanto, such as Machoke, Graveler, and Onix. It also tested players with puzzles requiring the strength HM to move boulders. Trainers inside were equally powerful, using evolved and diverse teams that mirrored the skill level of the Elite Four. This combination made Victory Road both a gauntlet and a proving ground, ensuring that players were truly ready for the challenges ahead. For many, the cave felt like a rite of passage, the last long trial before stepping into the grand stage of the Indigo Plateau and facing destiny. The Indigo Plateau represents the culmination of the Kanto journey. After gathering all 8 badges and enduring the Victory Road, trainers finally arrived at the Pokémon League's headquarters, where the Elite Four and Champion awaited. The atmosphere was charged with tension, reinforced by grand architecture and dramatic music. Unlike the wandering routes and lively towns, the plateau felt solemn, a place of ceremony where only the strongest could stand. Defeating the Elite Four wasn't enough. You then faced the champion, a final, unexpected twist. The Indigo Plateau embodied everything Kanto stood for: growth, perseverance, and triumph. It turned the end of the journey into an unforgettable celebration of the player's progress from beginner to master. Professor Oak, Kanto's wise researcher, served as both guide and mentor for the player's journey. Based in Pallet Town, Oak devoted his life to studying Pokemon behavior and relationships, making him one of the most influential figures in the series. He provided the Pokédex at the beginning of the adventure, setting the player's quest in motion. Oak's role extended beyond mechanics. His kind and grandfatherly demeanor made him a symbol of wisdom and support. In later generations, his influence grew even more, with mentions across multiple regions, reinforcing his importance in the wider Pokemon world. For many players, Professor Oak wasn't just a character. He was the embodiment of discovery, curiosity, and the wonder of the Pokemon journey. Viridian Forest was the first expansive wild area most trainers encountered. Nestled between Viridian City and Pewter City, it was a maze of tall grass, trees, and bug catching trainers. Here, players caught common Pokemon like Caterpie and Weedle, and for the lucky few, a rare Pikachu. The forest felt alive compared to the smaller patches of grass on Route 1, marking the first step into a larger, more mysterious world. Its design subtly prepared players for future challenges, introducing trainer battles, type matchups, and the thrill of random encounters. For many, Viridian Forest is remembered as the place where Pokemon truly came alive, a space of adventure that set the tone for the rest of the region. One of Kanto's subtle design details lies in its naming convention. Most towns are named after colors: pewter for gray stone, cerulean for blue water, vermilion for red, lavender for purple, and so on. This creative choice gave the region a unifying theme while also making towns easy to remember. The exception, of course, was Palette Town, whose name referred to a painter's palette, symbolizing a blank canvas and new beginnings. These colorful names added personality to each location, tying environment, atmosphere, and gym themes together. It's a small detail, but one that made Kanto feel cohesive and distinct, ensuring its towns were as memorable as the adventures that unfolded within them. The Sylph-Cumber takeover remains one of the longest and most complex dungeons in Generation 1. Spanning 11 floors filled with warp tiles, locked doors, and dozens of trainers, the building was both a challenge and a test of endurance. Players needed the card key to progress, requiring exploration and patience to fully navigate. The sheer scale of the dungeon reflected Team Rocket's ambition, making the takeover feel like a major turning point in the story. By the time players reached the top to face Giovanni, they had fought through one of Kanto's greatest trials. Sylph Coaster was not just a building, it was a symbol of resistance, where the fate of the region hung in the balance. The fighting dojo in Saffron City may no longer hold gym status, but it remains a memorable landmark. Inside, trainers battled using only fighting types, offering a different kind of challenge compared to the psychic-dominated gym next door. After clearing the dojo, players were given a unique choice: Hitmonlee, the kicking master, or Hitmonchan, the punching expert. This decision was one of the earliest examples of mutually exclusive rewards in Pokemon, forcing players to pick a favorite and trade later if they wanted both. The dojo also symbolized tradition versus progress, with its focus on martial arts contrasted by the modern skyscrapers of Sylph Karlsruhe and Sabrina's psychic gym nearby. It was a quiet but meaningful part of Kanto's design. Pokemon Red, Green, and Blue marked the beginning of a phenomenon when they launched in Japan in 1996. These games introduced players to the world of Kanto, its 151 Pokemon, and the revolutionary idea of capturing, training, and battling creatures on a handheld device. The initial release of Red and Green was followed by Blue, a refined version distributed through a mail order service. Later, international audiences received Red and Blue as the debut titles. Although they were simple in presentation, these games sparked one of the largest multimedia franchises in history. What began as a modest experiment on the Game Boy quickly became a global cultural movement, cementing Kanto's place in gaming history forever. Pokemon Yellow, released in 1998 in Japan, and 1999 worldwide, was directly inspired by the anime's success. This special edition placed Pikachu in the spotlight, giving players a partner that followed them visibly on the overworld. It was a charming addition that made the adventure feel more personal, as Pikachu displayed moods depending on how well it was treated. Yellow also integrated characters like Jesse and James into the story, bridging the gap between game and television. Though it reused much of Red and Blue's framework, these additions made the world feel more alive. For many fans, Pokemon Yellow became the definitive way to experience Kanto, combining nostalgia with playful touches drawn from the anime. The introduction of the link cable revolutionized how Pokemon was played. Before this, handheld games were mostly solitary experiences. With Red and Blue, players could connect two Game Boys and trade creatures, making it possible to complete the Pokédex only by sharing with others. This innovation turned Pokemon into a social experience, encouraging playground trades and friendly rivalries. It also set the foundation for multiplayer battling, another core feature of the series. The link cable transformed Pokemon from just a video game into a shared cultural event where friendships and rivalries grew around the idea of catching them all. Without this simple accessory, the franchise might never have become the global phenomenon it is today. One of Kanto's most enduring goals is completing the Pokédex, a challenge summed up in the phrase, "Gotta catch 'em all." In the original games, this meant finding all 151 Pokemon, including version exclusives and the elusive Mew. Achieving this feat required persistence, exploration, and trading with friends, making it one of the most ambitious completion goals of its era. For children in the 1990s, filling the Pokédex became a badge of honor, proof of dedication and skill. Though modern generations include far more Pokemon, the original challenge still holds nostalgic weight. Completing the Kanto Pokédex remains a rite of passage, a journey that echoes the spirit of discovery and adventure the series is built upon. Kanto's in-game layout was shaped by real-world inspiration from Tokyo Bay. The region's coastal design mirrors the geography of eastern Japan, with towns positioned to resemble real locations near the bay. For example, Vermilion City reflects Yokohama, a bustling port city, while Saffron resembles Tokyo, the urban heart of the area. These subtle influences grounded Kanto in a sense of place, even for international players who may not have recognized the references. By modeling the map after a real-world location, the developers created a region that felt both imaginative and authentic. This design choice gave Kanto an identity beyond pixels, tying its world to real geography and culture. The real-world Kanto region of Japan provided more than just a name for Pokemon's first map. It served as its cultural and geographic foundation. Located around Tokyo and encompassing major cities like Yokohama and Chiba, the real Kanto is a densely populated and historically significant area. By drawing from its layout and atmosphere, the developers ensured that the fictional Kanto carried echoes of Japan's modern identity. Towns inspired by ports, bustling capitals, and quiet countryside gave the game a balance of scale and variety. For Japanese players, these parallels may have been instantly familiar, while international audiences unknowingly experienced a stylized version of one of Japan's most iconic regions. Cinnabar Island, resting on Kanto's southern edge, is one of the most intriguing locations in the region. The island houses both the Pokemon Lab, where scientists research fossil revival, and the mysterious Cinnabar Mansion, filled with notes about Mew and Mewtwo's creation. This combination made Cinnabar a hub of science and secrets. The lab represented progress and innovation, giving players access to ancient Pokemon revived from fossils. The mansion, meanwhile, was eerie and abandoned, telling a darker story about genetic experimentation. Together, these two sites highlighted Pokemon's blend of wonder and danger, progress and mystery. Cinnabar Island remains a symbol of the unknown, a place where science meets legend within Kanto's world. In Pokemon Gold and Silver, Cinnabar Island's fate took a dramatic turn. The once thriving island was destroyed by a volcanic eruption, leaving only a rocky outcrop behind. Its gym leader, Blaine, was forced to relocate to the Seafoam Islands, battling in a small cave rather than his fiery mansion. This event emphasized that the Pokemon world is not static. Its geography and stories evolve over time. For longtime fans, the loss of Cinnabar was bittersweet, erasing a location filled with mystery and history. Yet it also made the world feel alive, capable of change and disaster. The destruction of Cinnabar remains one of the most striking examples of continuity between regions. Mount Moon, located between Pewter City and Cerulean, is famous as the first place where players encounter fossils. At the mountain's heart, they must choose between the Helix fossil, leading to Omanite, or the Dome fossil, leading to Kabuto. This choice introduced the concept of fossil Pokemon, creatures revived from ancient remains through scientific methods. The cave also featured common Pokemon, like Zubat and Clefairy, adding to its sense of mystery. For many, Mount Moon symbolized the blending of myth and science in the Pokemon world, a place where history could be revived and ancient creatures brought back to life. It set the stage for fossil revivals that would appear in every later generation. The choice between the Helix fossil and the Dome fossil in Mount Moon was already a memorable moment, but decades later, it became a cultural phenomenon. During the Twitch Plays Pokemon event in 2014, thousands of viewers collectively controlled a single playthrough of Pokemon Red. The Helix fossil, carried around but rarely used, became a running joke and was eventually treated like a divine relic, worshipped as Lord Helix. The Dome fossil, by contrast, became associated with evil or opposition in the playful mythology created by fans. What began as a simple game mechanic transformed into one of gaming's most famous internet memes, showing the lasting impact Kanto's tiny choices can still have today. Lavender Town's Pokemon Tower introduced the idea of Pokemon spirits for the first time. This massive graveyard rose high above the quiet town, filled with ghostly encounters that could only be revealed with a Sylph scope. Inside, players discovered a storyline involving the restless spirit of a Marowak, a rare case of explicit death in the Pokemon world. The tower became a place of mourning, where NPCs prayed for their lost Pokemon, adding emotional depth to the adventure. It was haunting, not only because of its atmosphere and eerie music, but also because it reminded players that their companions were more than just game pieces. They had lives, and sometimes loss was unavoidable. Pallet Town, though peaceful, stood out for what it lacked. Unlike other towns and cities in Kanto, it had no Pokemon Center, Pokemart, or gym. Instead, it consisted only of a few houses, the Ocean's Edge, and Professor Oak's lab. This simplicity emphasized its role as a starting point, a blank beginning before players ventured into a larger, busier world. The absence of facilities also reinforced the idea that Pallet was a small, quiet hometown. untouched by the bustling culture of training and battling. Returning after the journey often felt comforting, as if players had come back to a place that represented innocence before their adventure changed everything. In Saffron City, the streets are initially overrun by Team Rocket. Until players cleared out the villains occupying Sylph Kosa, the psychic gym leader Sabrina remained inaccessible. This story detail tied together the city's narrative. Only by defeating Rocket could order be restored, allowing normal gym challenges to resume. It also gave Saffron a feeling of tension, as its largest city was directly under the control of criminals. When the player finally cleared the tower and freed the city, the ability to battle Sabrina felt like part of the victory. This blending of narrative and progression made Saffron's storyline one of the most dynamic in Kanto, weaving story and gameplay into a single arc. The name Palette is a clever pun. While most Kanto towns are named after colors, palette refers to a painter's palette, representing a blank canvas. This ties into the game's theme of beginnings, as the player starts with nothing and slowly fills their journey with color and experience. The pun also connects palette to the broader naming scheme, subtly linking it to the other color-themed towns while giving it a unique twist. For players, Palette Town became more than just a starting location. It was a symbol of potential. The pun highlighted how carefully crafted Kanto's details were, showing that even the smallest names carried meaning in the grand design of the region. One of Kanto's clever storytelling devices is how Oak's grandson, your rival, always chooses the starter strong against yours. If you pick Charmander, he selects Squirtle. If you choose Squirtle, he picks Bulbasaur. This mechanic ensured that every major rival battle would present a true challenge, forcing players to think strategically rather than relying solely on type advantages. It also reinforced the rivalry itself, making the player feel like they were always one step behind, chasing someone who had the upper hand. This subtle design choice gave rival battles weight, turning them into obstacles to overcome rather than routine fights. It was one of the earliest examples of narrative woven into gameplay. Rock Tunnel was one of Kanto's most intimidating locations, not because of powerful enemies, but because of its darkness. Without HM05 Flash, the cave was almost impossible to navigate, with players stumbling blindly through encounters. Those who took the time to earn Flash from an NPC found the cave manageable, but many skipped it, enduring frustration and endless battles with Zubat and Geodude. This design taught preparation and patience, rewarding those who paid attention to hints and optional quests. The cave wasn't flashy, but its impact was lasting. Rock Tunnel became infamous among fans for its difficulty, serving as a reminder that Kanto's world could be both beautiful and unforgiving. Kanto's map became the template for nearly every Pokémon region that followed. The flow of towns, routes, gyms, and the final league challenge established a structure that has been reused with variations in Johto, Hoenn, and beyond. Its balance of forests, caves, and cities created a sense of rhythm that kept the journey engaging from start to finish. While later regions expanded with new mechanics and ideas, the foundation remained the same. Start small, grow stronger, and eventually face the ultimate test. Kanto's design was simple, but it was brilliant in its clarity. It became the model of how to build a Pokemon adventure, setting the standard for decades of games to come. In Fire Red and Leaf Green, Palette Town received an extra touch of storytelling through murals inside the houses. These murals hinted at Johto's legendary Pokémon, Ho-Oh and Lugia, creating a subtle bridge between regions. This detail suggested that even in Kanto, stories of other regions and their legends were known, reinforcing the idea of a connected Pokemon world. For players who noticed, it was an exciting hint at future adventures. The murals also added depth to Palette itself, transforming it from a simple hometown into a place that carried knowledge of legends far beyond its borders. It was a small but elegant way to expand the Pokemon universe within a familiar setting. Kanto's story is remarkable for how it begins and ends within the same region. Players start as a novice in Pallet Town, traveling across forests, caves, and cities before returning to familiar places like Viridian Gym and finally ascending to the Indigo Plateau. This circular journey gives the story a satisfying sense of closure as the player comes full circle, starting as an inexperienced trainer and finishing as champion. Unlike later regions that often connect to broader worlds, Kanto's story felt self contained yet complete. It taught players that adventure could be both personal and epic, with growth measured not just in badges, but in the journey from small beginnings to ultimate triumph. In Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal and their remakes, players who conquered Johto's League were given one final, unexpected challenge. At the peak of Mount Silver, they faced Red, the silent protagonist of the original Kanto games. His team was among the strongest ever seen, including a level 81 Pikachu, a nod to his anime counterpart. Red's presence symbolized the ultimate test, as players who once were Red now had to battle against him. This fight carried immense weight, bridging generations and reminding fans of their own journey through Kanto. It was more than a battle. It was a confrontation with legacy itself. Standing at the summit of one of Pokemon's most legendary mountains, Ash Ketchum, the anime's central hero, began his journey in Pallet Town, mirroring the player's start in the games. Unlike the silent protagonist of Red and Blue, Ash was impulsive, energetic, and occasionally reckless, making his growth feel relatable. His first partner, Pikachu, refused to enter a Pokeball, setting their story apart from the typical game mechanics. Ash's journey across Kanto followed many familiar beats from the games, facing gyms, battling Team Rocket, but with added depth, humor, and drama. For millions of fans worldwide, Ash became their introduction to Pokemon, making Pallet Town not just the start of a game, but the birthplace of an enduring global icon. Kanto has remained the most iconic setting in Pokemon, instantly recognizable to fans old and new. Its towns, gyms, and landmarks have been revisited more often than any other region, from sequels to remakes to spin-offs. The simplicity of its design makes it easy to remember, while its legendary status as the birthplace of the series gives it unmatched nostalgia. Even outside of gaming, Kanto often represents Pokemon as a whole in pop culture. References to Pikachu, Team Rocket, and the Indigo League are understood even by those who never played the games. Kanto isn't just a map, it is a cultural symbol, the foundation upon which Pokemon built its worldwide legacy. In the real world, Game Freak, the company behind Pokemon, has its headquarters in Tokyo, Japan. The urban heart of Japan provided not only the business base for the franchise, but also inspiration for many aspects of Kanto's design. Saffron City, with its skyscrapers and busy layout, closely mirrors Tokyo's dense metropolitan atmosphere. Being located in Tokyo allowed Game Freak's developers to draw from the city's culture and geography, infusing Kanto with authenticity. This real world connection added depth to the region, grounding its fictional towns in recognizable influences. The success of Pokemon, which began in Tokyo, eventually spread across the globe, but its roots remain tied to Japan's bustling capital. One of the most groundbreaking elements of Pokemon Gold and Silver was the inclusion of Kanto as a fully explorable second region. After completing the Johto storyline, players could board the SS Aqua and return to the land of their childhood adventures. While some areas were streamlined compared to the original games, the ability to revisit Kanto doubled the scope of the game and delighted fans. This design choice made Gold and Silver feel expansive, as no other Game Boy title offered two regions in one. For players, it was a rare gift, the chance to relive Kanto through new eyes, with the Johto's experience adding weight to familiar challenges. In the anime, Giovanni, the elusive leader of Team Rocket, received a surprising touch of humanity. A backstory revealed his mother's flower shop in Celadon City, which inspired the flowers seen in the Celadon Mansion. This connection added depth to Giovanni, showing him not only as a villain but also as a character shaped by family and circumstance. While the games portrayed him as a cold, ambitious leader, the anime often explored emotional layers absent in the source material. The flowers became a symbolic reminder that even villains have roots in softer, more personal histories. This detail enriched the lore of Kanto, tying one of its darkest figures to something unexpectedly gentle. Team Rocket's presence in Kanto often extended underground, literally. In Saffron City, they made use of hidden tunnels and passages beneath buildings, creating a sense that corruption lurked just under the surface of normal life. These subterranean routes, accessed through the Game Corner or Sylph Koadon, symbolized their secretive nature and influence. For players, exploring these underground networks felt dangerous and exciting, revealing how Rocket's reach spread through both visible and hidden layers of society. The idea that villains literally operated beneath the feet of everyday citizens gave Kanto's story texture, suggesting that evil could hide anywhere, waiting for the right moment to strike. One curious detail about Kanto is its naming scheme. While towns are named after colors, cerulean, vermilion, lavender, the routes connecting them are simply numbered. This provided clarity and simplicity, ensuring players wouldn't get confused while navigating the map. Yet, it also created a symbolic balance. Towns represented personality and culture, while routes represented structure and travel. The numbered routes became the neutral spaces between colorful destinations, a blank canvas between bursts of identity. This design choice became a tradition carried into every future Pokemon region. Though often overlooked, the decision to number routes was an elegant way to organize the world and keep players grounded in their adventure. When designing Johto, the developers placed it geographically beside Kanto, ensuring the two regions formed one continuous landmass. This decision allowed Gold and Silver to expand the world naturally, as though players were simply traveling west into new territory. By linking Johto and Kanto together, the games emphasized continuity, making the Pokemon world feel larger and interconnected. This choice also provided narrative weight, showing how events in one region affected the other. The two regions together represented not just expansion, but evolution, symbolizing how Pokemon as a franchise had grown. Johto's design as Kanto's neighbor remains one of the most beloved aspects of the series, Even subtle details in Kanto have changed between games. One example is the trainer battle music, which differs slightly between the original red and blue versions and the later fire red and leaf green remakes. While the melody remained the same, the instrumentation and pacing shifted, creating a slightly different atmosphere. For nostalgic fans, these changes were instantly noticeable, evoking comparisons between the old and new. Music has always been a vital part of Pokemon's identity, setting the mood for every encounter. The evolving sound of trainer battles highlighted how even the smallest details could refresh a familiar experience. Kanto's story was the same, but the music gave it new life. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Pal Park provided a way to transfer older Pokemon into the Kanto Pokedex. Located in Fuchsia City, this feature allowed players to migrate creatures from previous Game Boy Advance titles into the Nintendo DS generation. Once transferred, the Pokemon appeared as encounters within special fields, blending the idea of migration with gameplay. This system made the Kanto Pokedex feel larger and more alive, tying the new technology of the DS to nostalgic roots. Pal Park was a bridge across eras, ensuring that Pokemon collected in older adventures could continue their journey forward. For many fans, it represented continuity, linking childhood catches to new stories within the expanded Pokemon world. Pokemon, Let's Go Pikachu, and Let's Go Eevee modernized the Kanto experience with motion controls. Players could swing a Joy-Con to throw Pokeballs, mimicking the physical act of capturing Pokemon. This mechanic, combined with visuals inspired by Pokemon Go, made the game accessible to newcomers while refreshing Kanto for longtime fans. Familiar routes and cities gained new life through smoother graphics and animations, while Pokemon visibly roamed the overworld instead of hiding in random encounters. This design created a calmer, more approachable version of Kanto. For those revisiting the region, it felt like seeing an old home redecorated, both nostalgic and excitingly new at the same time. Surf, one of Kanto's key HMs, is essential for reaching Cinnabar Island, yet it isn't obtained until midway through the game. Players must explore the Safari Zone in Fuchsia City to receive the move, making it one of the most rewarding HMs to earn. Once acquired, Surf doesn't just allow access to Cinnabar, it opens up the seas across Kanto, linking routes and uncovering hidden areas. The placement of Surf midway through the story gives players time to explore land-based routes before unlocking the ocean, adding variety and pacing to the adventure. It symbolized progress in the journey as the player's world expanded outward into new horizons. The Indigo League's name was carefully chosen to sound both colorful and grand. Indigo, a deep shade of blue associated with prestige and mystery, gave the League a sense of majesty compared to the simple color names of Kanto towns. It emphasized that this was the ultimate goal of the journey, a place where the greatest trainers gathered. The name also tied into Kanto's broader theme of color-based locations, fitting neatly while still feeling elevated. For players, the Indigo League became more than just a title. It was a symbol of achievement, the culmination of countless battles. The choice of name helped make the ending of the Kanto story feel larger than life. Kanto was the region that pioneered Pokemon's type matchup system, a mechanic that became central to the entire series. Players quickly learned that water beats fire, electric beats water, and psychic once dominated nearly everything. The system added depth to battles, ensuring that strategy and knowledge mattered as much as raw power. Though imperfect in Generation 1, with certain types lacking balance, it laid the foundation for a combat system still used decades later. This simple yet brilliant design choice gave Pokemon lasting replayability. Every gym, battle, and rival encounter in Kanto served as an introduction to this system, teaching players the importance of planning, adaptability, and the thrill of outsmarting an opponent. In Viridian City, NPC dialogue provides small but memorable insights into game mechanics. One character explains how Pokemon centers heal creatures instantly, reinforcing the idea that the player's companions could recover endlessly during the journey. Another hints at the link between technology and Pokemon, encouraging players to explore and interact. These lines of dialogue, though brief, were vital in teaching first time players how the world worked without overwhelming them with tutorials. By embedding lessons into natural conversations, Kanto's design felt organic and intuitive. The Viridian NPCs exemplified this approach, blending storytelling with instruction in a way that made even small town encounters feel meaningful and instructive. Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green expanded the Pokedex beyond the original 151, introducing players to creatures from Johto once the main story was complete. This addition gave the remakes a sense of freshness, ensuring that longtime fans wouldn't simply be replaying the same journey beat for beat. Accessing the expanded Pokedex unlocked new Pokemon across Kanto, enriching both the wild encounters and team building options. The decision also tied Kanto more closely to the broader Pokemon world, foreshadowing the series' growing interconnectedness. For players, this expansion felt like a gift, a chance to rediscover Kanto while meeting creatures that had only existed in other regions before. It kept nostalgia alive while pushing the adventure forward. The anime presented a playful twist on Pokeball mechanics. Unlike the games, where capturing is represented by probability, the show often portrayed Pokeballs as working seamlessly, instantly catching Pokemon once thrown. Sometimes, they even failed to work in dramatic ways, bending the rules for storytelling. The anime also showed trainers dodging and deflecting Pokeballs, something impossible in the games. These differences emphasized the divide between game mechanics and narrative drama. While the games focused on numbers and chances, the anime focused on spectacle and emotion. For fans, these variations created a dual understanding of the Pokemon world, one logical and strategic, the other colorful and cinematic. In the games, Red is portrayed as the first true champion of the Pokemon League, a title players earn at the Indigo Plateau. Later, in Gold, Silver, and Crystal, his reappearance atop Mount Silver reinforced this role, framing him as the ultimate trainer of legend. His silent demeanor, combined with his powerful team, made him an almost mythical figure within the Pokemon universe. For fans, battling Red felt like facing their own past. The silent protagonist they once embodied now turned into an NPC challenge. Red's role as both champion and boss encounter cemented him as one of the most iconic characters in the franchise, embodying both nostalgia and aspiration. Professor Oak's backstory hints that he was once a powerful trainer himself. Various dialogue lines, especially from his old rival Agatha, reveal that Oak's expertise didn't just come from research, but from first-hand experience in battles. Agatha chastises him for giving up training to pursue science, suggesting a fierce rivalry in their youth. This detail added depth to Oak, making him more than just a kindly researcher. It implied that behind his wisdom was a history of real competition and perhaps even victories. Though never shown in full, these hints gave Oak a richer character, blending his roles as scientist, mentor, and former trainer into one. The Pewter City Museum is a charming stop early in the Kanto journey, showcasing fossils and scientific exhibits. One of its highlights is a model of a space shuttle, an unexpected detail that connected the Pokemon world to real world space exploration. This little touch hinted at the franchise's fascination with science and mystery, which extended beyond Pokemon themselves. For players, it was a reminder that Kanto wasn't only about battling, it was also about curiosity and discovery. The museum encouraged players to think of Pokemon as part of a larger universe, full of history, technology, and imagination. Its displays gave the city character, reinforcing the idea that the Pokemon world had depth far beyond the battlefield. On Route 11, players encounter a train station with a sleeping guard blocking the way. This design foreshadowed one of Kanto's most famous obstacles, Snorlax, by presenting a human version of the same idea. Both served as living roadblocks, preventing players from progressing until certain story conditions were met. The sleeping guard added humor while preparing players for the more challenging Snorlax encounter later. It also made Kanto's world feel consistent, as if naps and interruptions were just part of everyday life. For many players, this small moment was a clever preview of what was to come, blending narrative foreshadowing with playful world building. Vermilion City's bustling harbor is famous for hosting the SS Anne, but sharp-eyed players noticed something curious: an inaccessible warehouse near the docks. This building could never be entered, sparking speculation about what might be inside. For years, fans wondered whether it held secrets, like additional ships or hidden story content. While the warehouse ultimately served no function, its mere presence added intrigue to Vermilion. It contributed to the sense that Kanto contained mysteries beyond the player's reach, subtle details that kept the imagination alive. Even today, the unused building is remembered as one of those quiet puzzles, an object of speculation in a world already filled with secrets. The SS Anne is remembered not just as a grand cruise ship, but also for its fleeting nature. Once players completed the rival battle and obtained HM01 cut from the captain, the ship departed forever, never to return. This one-time event made it feel unique, as if trainers had experienced something special that could not be repeated. For many fans, this transience gave the SS Anne an almost mythical quality, leading to rumors of secret ways to bring it back. Some believed the ship could be saved by glitches, while others invented elaborate theories about hidden Pokemon beneath the truck nearby. Its disappearance made it unforgettable, a rare moment of impermanence in Kanto's world. Two Snorlax famously block Kanto's routes, one on Route 12 and another on Route 16. These massive Pokemon prevented players from passing until they obtained the Pokeflute from Mr. Fuji, teaching the importance of story progression alongside exploration. Each encounter felt monumental, as Snorlax's sheer size and power made it one of the most difficult Pokemon to capture. Unlike typical wild encounters, these battles occurred on the overworld, making them stand out as special. The fact that there were two Snorlax emphasized their significance as guardians of Kanto's pathways. Together, they became some of the most iconic Pokemon encounters in the series, symbolizing the obstacles that shaped every trainer's journey. Cycling Road, which stretched between Celadon City and Fuchsia City, contained a unique mechanic. When traveling south, the bike automatically rolled downhill. This gave players the sensation of real momentum, something rare in the simple graphics of the original Game Boy. The effect was small, but it created a sense of geography and realism, making the world feel alive. Cycling Road was also filled with trainers, mostly bikers, creating both a training ground and a cultural landmark. Its sloping design reflected Kanto's clever use of mechanics to shape atmosphere, turning a simple route into a memorable experience. Riding downhill became one of the most satisfying and playful details in the region. Mewtwo's clone, so central to the story of the first Pokemon movie, is a detail unique to the anime. In the games, Mewtwo exists as a powerful genetic creation, but the concept of it producing clones of other Pokemon was never explored. The film expanded the lore, portraying Mewtwo as struggling with its identity and purpose, using cloning as both a weapon and a symbol of its existential crisis. This difference highlights the divide between game canon and anime canon. Fans of the series often merge the two, but in truth, the Mewtwo of the games is a quieter mystery. Powerful, lonely, and where he's hidden, deep in Cerulean Cave, without the added narrative of cloning. Inside Viridian Gym, a helpful NPC known as the Gym Guide offers tips before each gym battle. However, after Giovanni is defeated and Team Rocket disbands, this character disappears from the gym entirely. His absence went largely unnoticed by many players, but it added a subtle narrative touch. Once Giovanni left, the gym no longer functioned as it once did, and the guide's role was no longer needed. This small detail reflected the game's attention to continuity, showing that the world changed in response to the player's actions. It's one of those quiet touches that made Kanto feel dynamic, as if even minor characters had their stories tied to the broader events of the region. Within the journals scattered across Cinnabar Mansion, one entry stands out. It records that Mewtwo's creation was finalized on February 6th, giving the genetically engineered Pokemon an actual birth date. This detail added chilling realism to the story, framing Mewtwo less as a mythical creature and more as a scientific project, with documentation and milestones. For players who stumbled upon this line, it was a surprising level of specificity, deepening the eerie tone of the mansion. The entry humanized the experiment in unsettling ways, reminding fans that Mewtwo was not just another Pokemon, but the result of human ambition and tampering. February 6th remains one of the most famous dates in Pokemon lore. The Safari Zone in Fuchsia City wasn't just a single area. It contained 4 distinct encounter zones, each with its own pool of rare Pokemon. This design encouraged exploration and added unpredictability to every visit. Players might discover a Kangaskhan in one zone, Tauros in another, or stumble across a Chansey in the grass. The variety gave the Safari Zone a sense of richness, rewarding patience and persistence, combined with the unique mechanics of safari balls, bait, and rocks. The different zones made the safari feel unlike any other part of Kanto. For many players, completing the zone and finding its rarest Pokemon became one of the most memorable and challenging parts of the game. In Fuchsia City, the Safari Zone's warden is best remembered for losing his gold teeth. This quirky side quest required players to retrieve them from the zone and return them, earning HM04 strength as a reward. Beyond the practical prize, The gag was a nod to a type of humor common in older Japanese RPGs, where exaggerated jokes and silly characters broke up the tension of long adventures. The warden's muffled speech without his teeth made him instantly memorable, creating a light-hearted moment in an otherwise serious region. It was one of those comedic touches that balanced Kanto's atmosphere, reminding players that the Pokemon world didn't always take itself too seriously. The daycare in Kanto had a very simple function compared to later generations. It only held one Pokemon at a time. This meant no breeding, no eggs, and no intricate mechanics. Instead, its role was purely to help level up your Pokemon slowly as you traveled. The lack of breeding in Generation 1 made Pokemon feel rarer and more precious, as every creature had to be caught or traded directly. Later regions expanded the daycare into a full system, but Kanto's minimal version felt like a training service run by kind caretakers. Its simplicity reflected the early design philosophy of the games. Focus on adventure first, and let mechanics grow in later generations. Copycat, one of Saffron City's most unusual NPCs, is known for her love of mimicking others. Whenever the player visits her home, she imitates their speech, creating a quirky and slightly eerie moment of reflection. Her favorite Pokemon is Clefairy, a creature originally intended to be the franchise mascot before Pikachu took the spotlight. Copycat's choice of Clefairy added depth to her character, linking her to a hidden layer of Pokemon history. This simple detail made her stand out, as her home became a space of playful oddness in a bustling city. For many fans, she embodies the charm of Kanto's NPCs, strange, memorable, and often tied to the series' deeper legacy. Celadon City's Game Corner was one of the most iconic buildings in Kanto, with its slot machines featuring themed reels. Instead of generic icons, the slots displayed symbols like Pikachu, Pokeballs, and the number 7. These familiar images made the minigame feel rooted in the Pokemon world while still carrying the thrill of gambling. Winning coins could be exchanged for rare prizes, including powerful TMs and Pokemon like Dratini or Porygon. For many players, the Game Corner was their first taste of endless hours lost to chance in a video game. The slot designs, cheerful yet addictive, became instantly recognizable, turning Celadon into both a place of temptation and reward. Among Kanto's legendary birds, Zapdos holds a unique distinction. While Articuno is hidden deep within the icy caverns of the Seafoam Islands, and Moltres resides in a rugged cave, Zapdos resides in the power plant, a man-made facility. This location gave Zapdos a distinct aura, blending electricity and industry in a way that suited its typing perfectly. The setting emphasized its connection to technology and energy. Unlike the more natural layers of its counterparts, for many players, the power plant felt eerie and abandoned, making Zapdos' sudden appearance all the more dramatic. Its placement stood out as an inspired design choice, giving each bird a unique domain tied to its elemental power. Blue, your rival and eventual champion, is famous for adapting his team based on the starter Pokemon you choose. If you pick Bulbasaur, his final team ensures he counters grass. If you pick Charmander, he brings Pokemon that challenge fire. And if you pick Squirtle, he tailors his roster to match water. This adaptability made the champion battle feel personal, as if Blue had grown alongside you, adjusting his strategy to stay ahead. The dynamic design elevated the final fight, ensuring that no matter which starter you loved, Blue would always remain a worthy rival. It was one of the first examples of the series tailoring the story experience around the player's choices. In Pokemon Yellow, Professor Oak plays a more direct role after you defeat the champion. Unlike in Red and Blue, where the game simply congratulates you, Oak personally appears to grade your Pokedex. Depending on how many Pokemon you've caught, he delivers different comments, ranging from praise to encouragement to continue your journey. This small addition emphasized Yellow's stronger ties to the anime, where Oak was more hands on as a mentor. It also reinforced the series' theme of exploration and collection, reminding players that catching them all was as important as winning battles. Oak's evaluation added a sense of closure, making the end of the Kanto adventure feel more complete and personal. And with that, we've reached the end of our journey through the world of Kanto. From Pallet Town's quiet beginnings to the Indigo Plateau's grand battles, every corner of this first Pokemon region carries a story, a secret, or a memory that has shaped the way millions of players see the series. What may seem like small details, an NPC's line of dialogue, a hidden room, or a rare encounter, combine to create a living world that feels much larger than the pixels on a Game Boy screen. Kanto endures not only because it was the first, but because it struck a perfect balance of simplicity and depth. Its forests, caves, and cities introduced mechanics and ideas that would ripple across every future generation. For longtime fans, revisiting Kanto feels like coming home. For new players, it remains a place of discovery, where the adventure of catching, battling, and exploring begins fresh each time. As you drift off to sleep, let these stories remind you of the wonder and creativity that Pokemon continues to inspire. Somewhere, Pikachu is still waiting in Viridian Forest. A trainer is still choosing their very first starter. And beyond every route, there's always another mystery to uncover. Thank you for joining me on this slow walk through Kanto's history and trivia. May your dreams tonight be filled with adventure, gentle nostalgia, and perhaps even the call of a legendary bird echoing across the night sky.